morning. So let's hear it for start. So right now we're going to dive into our second speaker. Her name is Ellie from the Gentle Barn. Who's heard of the Gentle Barn? Who knows that there's a Gentle Barn like an hour away from here? Who followed the escape story of the 6 cows 2 years ago? Yeah, right on. So you guys already know, I don't even have to read this, no, I'm just kidding. So the Gentle Barn is a national organization that rescues and rehabilitates unwanted animals and heals people with the same stories of abuse and neglect. They have 3 locations, one in Santa Clarita, one in Nashville, Tennessee, and now one in Denver, Missouri. And like I said, that's just an hour away. Ellie is an expert in healing orphaned and sick animals, like puppies with parvo and calves from veal crates. She invented her own gentle healing method that allows old, sick, injured, and terrified animals to fully recover using a mixture of Western medicine, holistic healing modalities, holding therapy, and lots of love. She has also hosted hundreds of thousands of at-risk inner-city and special needs children, war veterans, seniors, victims of domestic violence, and those in recovery from drug, alcohol, and gang affiliation. It is her goal to build gentle barns in every state in America, teaching people kindness and compassion to animals, each other, and our planet. So let's give it up for Ellie Lash from the Gentle Barn.
Hello, St. Louis. Hello. I am so happy to be here. Many of you might not know this, but my story starts in St. Louis. I actually lived here when I was a kid. And my story and the Gentle Barn and everything that I do today, it all started here in St. Louis. So there were 2 very, very important events that happened when I was a kid in St. Louis. The first was my mom made me go to temple with her on Saturdays. And all the women kind of sat together and focused on the sermon. They seemed very concentrated and into it. And I sat on my seat, not really able to hear or understand what they were saying. I couldn't hold my body still, and I needed to talk. It was so hard to sit there still and quiet. And so my mom would try for the first half of the day to try to make me sit still and quiet. I mean, she got an A for effort. And finally, it was clear that I was not going to be still and quiet. So she finally let me go, and I ran to the field behind the temple. And I was so happy there. I got to crawl around on the ground and find grasshoppers and little bugs and bees and look at the flowers and make little hidden forts in the very tall grasses. And I didn't care that I was wearing patent leather shoes, tights, and a dress. I just was all tomboy on the ground with nature, having the best time. And one particular day, I rolled on my back to kind of watch the sky. I like to look at the clouds floating across the sky. And that one particular day, the sky was full of butterflies. Orange and black, beautiful angels filled the sky, and I've never seen anything more beautiful in my life. And so I laid there, far more still and quiet than I could ever be in temple, watching these butterflies. And they started landing on me. One by one, they would land on my forehead or my arm or my tummy. And eventually I was covered in butterflies. And it was the most amazing feeling I had ever had in my life. I felt this sense of belonging, deep belonging, part of something greater than me, part of Mother Earth, part of all its creatures, enveloped by the sky like a warm blanket and cradled by the ground. And I felt so at peace. And that is the feeling that I have chased for the last 51 years. It is the feeling that I crave, and it's the same feeling that I feel everywhere I am in nature. And it set me on a path to love animals so deeply, to feel a part of them, to feel like I could be their voice, I could stand up for them, I could be something important for them as they were important to me. But But that feeling of belonging to nature started slowly making me feel separate from other humans that I was surrounded with. Because I so clearly saw animals as my healers, teachers, and friends. I felt connected to nature in a way that I couldn't even describe. But the people around me, my family, my siblings, my friends at school, my community, they didn't see animals the way that I did. And so the deeper I loved animals, the more I was creating a wedge between me and other people. And that wedge got bigger and bigger and bigger until I felt so different and so separate and so not the same as the kids that I was in school with. They would tease me, they would make fun of me. My brothers would do horrible things to insects just to kind of make me cry because they thought it was fun. And that wedge between me and the people I was surrounded with got bigger and bigger and bigger until I finally didn't want to be here anymore. And so at 7 years old, I actually tried to kill myself. But being 7 years old, I didn't know how to do it. I mean, I tried to hit my head with a shoe, that didn't work. And I tried to jump out of a second-story window, but I couldn't break the glass. And so very frustrated that I didn't want to stay, but I didn't know how to leave, I ran to the garden that had always been my sanctuary. And in the garden, I sat and cried, not knowing what to do, but just cried and cried and cried, just kind of spewing out all my frustration. And a little hummingbird came and flew in my face. And he stayed there for what felt like forever. It must have been about 3 or 5 minutes, but it felt like forever. And I'll never forget his shimmering red and neon blue and gorgeous, exquisite orange as he hovered in my face. And his little tucked legs and his little black beady eyes looking into mine. And this feeling came over me like, it's gonna be okay. We need you here, you have to stay. And this feeling of peace came over me. And that was the second time where I felt so part of nature, so called out and recognized by nature. And it wasn't just me loving nature and admiring nature and playing in nature. It was nature recognizing me back. It was nature calling me the way that I was calling it. And this feeling of peace came over me, and I decided right then and there that what I was going to do was I was going to fill my house full of animals that I saved, and they were going to be my friends. And so on all my adventures in the lakes and the woods, every time I would find a bird that fell out of her nest, or a turtle with a broken shell, or a duck that was frozen in the lake, I would bring them home. The problem was that my poor parents were not amused. They did not want a house full of animals. My mom had her hands full with me and my brothers. And so I would go off to school, and I'd come racing home from school to see my new friend, and they would be gone. My mom would get rid of them when I was in school. And I would cry, and I would say, how can you do this to me? And they'd say, when you grow up, you can have as many animals as you want. I now have 200 animals. Thank you. And I would yell back at my poor parents at the age of 7. I would say, you'll see, when I grow up, I'll have a huge place full of animals, and I'll show the world how beautiful they are. And I kept yelling this. I didn't have land, I didn't have money, I hadn't even met a farm animal at that point. But this idea lodged itself in my brain and would not let go. And every spare moment, I would sit in school and I would doodle what the gentle barn would look like. And I would color in the barns and the fences and the trees and the grass and even the insects and the animals. Until my desk and the notebook and my arms were covered in pictures of animals. And I would go to sleep at night, and I would dream of all the animals I would love, and I would picture holding them in my arms and kissing their faces and feeling their fuzz on my cheek. And it was all I could think about. Well, the gentle barn didn't actually start until many decades later. But when my family moved us kids from St. Louis to Connecticut and then landed in LA, I took St. Louis with me. I took the humidity and the way that it feels on my skin like I'm wearing a sweater. I took the smell of flowers and grass that is always in the air. I took the memories of every single frog and every single turtle and every single bird and every single bunny rabbit that I played with as a child. And I took those memories and I took the connection to Mother Earth And I took the love affair that I was having with animals and I packed it up and I took it with me. And that love affair and the feeling that I have when I'm out in nature and I'm with animals and the way they make me feel good in my own skin and they make me feel like I belong and I'm worth something, I took it all with me. And I finally started the Gentle Barn 20 years ago. So the Gentle Barn in Los Angeles started 20 years ago, and we opened in Tennessee 5 years ago. And 2 years ago, I sat at the edge of my seat, watching the news, and watching 6 cows run through the streets of St. Louis. Raise your hand if you saw that on the news and you were part of that. Now, my husband and I were all the way in Los Angeles, California. We watched it on the news. And we prayed and we cried and we agonized. What's going to happen to them? Where are they going to go? What's going to happen to them? No one's helping them. Someone needs to help them. It was awful. Finally, they rounded them up and sent them back to the slaughterhouse. And this wonderful St. Louis community was not okay with that. And the wonderful St. Louis community kept calling the slaughterhouse saying, you've got to let them live. You've got to let them live. You've got to let them live. And a small group of people from St. Louis actually started a GoFundMe to raise their freedom money. And Sasha's one of them. The one that was just up here that introduced me, she was one of the people that raised all the money to save those cows. And so we watched that on the news and we thought, oh, it's good now. Like a Midwest sanctuary or even an East Coast sanctuary, they're gonna come, they're gonna take these cows back to their sanctuary, we're all good now. And I went back to work. You know, we went back to what we were doing. We thought the story would end happily ever after. But 4 days later, the slaughterhouse man announced that he was done waiting, that no one was stepping forward, and that he was going to slaughter them the next morning. So that's when our phone started ringing. People from St. Louis begging us to save them, begging us to do something and to let them live. And so my wonderful husband got on a plane, flew to St. Louis overnight on a red-eye, got here in the morning to stop their slaughter, was able to use the freedom money that St. Louis community had so wonderfully raised. Got them out of the slaughterhouse, got them to a hospital, got them treated for their wounds and their injuries and their broken bones and their infections. One of them was so badly injured that he couldn't survive. His name is Spirit. And so he didn't make it. But then after they were treated in the hospital, a foster home stepped forward and offered to take them until we figured out next steps. And so we didn't know what the next steps would look like. I mean, we kind of thought, well, I guess we could drive them to California, but that's a very long drive. There wasn't room in our Tennessee location to accommodate them because we were on a rented 12 acres at the time and didn't have room. We had some people calling us saying, well, we've got a back 40, we can take them, or we have a small sanctuary, if you front the bill for the rest of their lives, we can take them, but nothing local. It was like 5 to 8 hours away. And so me and Jay were like, well, we gotta drive to all these places and we gotta interview them and we gotta see the land and we gotta see if it's viable. But I thought, you know, like at this point, I hadn't even met the cows yet. And I thought, like, how do I decide what life they're gonna have, where they're gonna live, what they're gonna do without even meeting them? And so I said, I have to meet them. I have to get a sense of who they are so that I can figure out what the best match is of where they're gonna go. And so Jay and I flew together to St. Louis and to meet them. And we got out of the car, we walked to the fence that was bordering their pasture. All 5 cows were in a line about 150 feet away. They were all completely in a row just watching us. And when we got to the fence, the lead cow, Chico, people were chanting Chico in the streets as they were running, and he was the one that busted through 3 fences and tried to lead them to safety. Chico stepped forward and crossed the 150 feet till he was standing right in front of me. And he, up close, was so powerful and so wise. I felt like I was meeting the Dalai Lama or Buddha or Jesus. Like I felt like I was meeting a tremendous sage disguised as a cow. And I dropped to my knees and tears poured down my face as him and I locked eyes. And he stared into my eyes, and I stared into his, and tears were streaming down my face. And after 20 minutes, when I could finally compose myself enough to speak, I looked back at Jay and I said, these cows have come with a message for the world. These cows have come with a very important story, and we have to help them share it. So Jay and I went and found our own beautiful property in St. Louis, 45 minutes from downtown St. Louis in Jefferson County. We launched our own GoFundMe, and within 3 weeks we had purchased a property in St. Louis. So we opened a gentle barn for these cows. The day that we brought them home was such a magical feeling. It was such a lovely feeling to be able to bring them home and promise them that they were only going to know love, and they were only going to know peace and kindness and gentleness, and that we were going to take their story and we were going to open the hearts of humanity with them. But at first they were very, very scared. They were traumatized and terrified, and they would jump in the air and run if they even heard a human voice. And so it took a really long while to heal them. And so for the first 3 to 6 months, our wonderful volunteers and our staff, we all took turns reading out loud to them in the pasture and singing to them and talking to them. And every time we would come and spend time with them, when we would leave cookies. And so they started discovering the cookies and then anticipating the cookies. So at first we just left cookies as we left, but then it turned into them greeting us, asking for the cookies. So we would bring cookies as we arrived, and then eventually it turned into them taking the cookies from our hands, which ultimately led to us being able to pet and hug them. And now these beautiful, brave, resilient, gorgeous boys are living in the gentle barn. If you sit next to them, they'll lay down and put their heads in your lap. You can hug them and kiss them and brush them, and most importantly, you can look deep into their eyes and you can find wisdom there. You can find healing there. You can find peace there. You can find connection there to something that as a society we have lost. These animals love their babies just like we do. These animals celebrate birth just like we do, and they mourn death just like we do. They want freedom, they want family, and they want fun, and they want a life full of the things that we all take for granted. And that's what these St. Louis 6 show us and teach us every single day. They rejoice in their life. They eat like it's their only meal. They play together. They bump heads together. They smell the flowers. They lay under the shade trees. And they greet every single solitary visitor with a sense of urgency, because they know that they're speaking on behalf of their kind. They are representative of the billions of animals that don't get that happy ending and don't get their beautiful life in a sanctuary. Sanctuaries are so important because when you see animals that live in beef ranches or dairies, they're trapped in fear. They know what's going to happen to them, and they're living every day waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for that bad thing to happen. And so they don't play, and they don't meditate, and they don't eat in a peaceful way. And they're trapped in that fear every single day of their life. So it's really hard for us to see what they're really like, because they're in survival mode. But at sanctuaries, you can see animals live the lives that we live. You can see them playing. You can see them becoming best friends and falling in love. You can see them communicating. And you can see how they're supposed to be. And so I urge all of you to come out to the Gentle Barn and to come meet the St. Louis 6. Come and hug the cows, put your faces on them and close your eyes and feel their energy, feel their love. Let them open your hearts. Let them connect you to Mother Earth and all its creatures. And let them breathe love into you so that we all become their ambassadors and we carry their secrets with us. We can tell their secrets through what we eat and what we buy and where we go, and we become their voice. We can become their advocates. We can stand up for injustice. And we can use their story and use their love and use their interaction to speak on behalf of the billions of animals that are not so lucky. Many people ask me how I went from being so hopeless and wanting to get out of here to being so hopeful today and being so happy. Well, I think that living my dream helps, right? Getting up every single solitary morning and getting to live my dream and getting to be on my purpose and fulfill my destiny, I think that that absolutely helps. And I wish that for every single one of us, that we all get to live our dreams and we all get to fulfill our passions. But you know, in the very first year of the Gentle Barn, I had a really hard time because I had dreamt of being starting the Gentle Barn since I was a little kid. And so I had this wonderful fantasy of how wonderful it was going to be. It was going to be unicorns and confetti, and it was going to be all smiles and happy. And as I got really deep, my husband and I, Jay, as we got really, really deep into the work at the Gentle Barn, it became clear that yes, we were saving animals, and yes, we were living our dreams, but we were also seeing the worst of humanity. We would see one story after the other that just broke our hearts, and we couldn't believe that this could actually exist on this beautiful planet. We would hear one story after the other where we thought, okay, this is going to be the worst story we've ever heard. This is definitely the worst story. And then the next day we would find a story more horrific than the one before. And so it became very, very difficult in the beginning to even survive what we were experiencing. And there was a moment where I actually said, you know what? I was wrong. I thought this was going to be great, but it's not. And I was wrong, and I'm not strong enough, and I can't do this. And I had like a month-long time where I really felt like, I gotta get out of here. I can't do this. This is gonna eat me alive. This is gonna destroy me. And I kind of battled myself for a month. In the end, I was like, okay, yeah, of course, this is why I'm here. This is my dream since I was little. This is the only thing I can possibly do. I can't think of one other thing that I would ever do. Okay, fine, this is why I'm here. I'm gonna do it. But how in the world do I survive it? How do I survive it when I want to shake people? I want to wake people up. I want to scream my message from the rooftops. I want to do more, faster. I'm not doing enough. And those feelings and the darkness that I was encountering was eating me alive. So how was I going to survive this? So I came up with 5 things that have enabled me to stay hopeful, stay gentle, stay happy, and do this work. And I want to share those 5 things with you. The first of which, the first thing that I came up with to keep me sane was a commitment to spread my message gently. It's so easy to become angry. It's so easy to become critical and judgmental of other people. It's so easy to feel this sense of urgency and you want to just yell it at people. You want to wake people up. You want to connect people to the love that you have for animals. And the truth is that when I'm not coming across gentle, people can't hear it, so it's not useful. And the other thing is that when I'm not coming across gentle, that's the very thing that's going to eat me alive. That's the very thing that's going to make me feel angry and miserable every single day. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be like that. And the most important thing is the only reason I'm rescuing animals, and the only reason I started the Gentle Barn, and the only reason that I do my work every single day, and Jay as well, is because we're trying to put more peace in the world. We're trying to put more love in the world. We're trying to make this a better place. So how is this going to be a better place when I'm full of anger and rage all the time? It doesn't work. It doesn't match. To create peace, we have to feel peaceful. To create gentleness, we have to be gentleness. And so I made a commitment in that first year of opening the Gentle Barn that I was going to spread my message gently. I was going to be kind and compassionate to people. I was going to remember a time in my life when I didn't know, and I was going to embrace everyone that I met with that same compassion and love that I want to create in the world. And that's helped me be a much more peaceful person. Number 2 is I committed to lose my attachment to the outcome. I'm going to connect people to our animals. I'm going to help them. We're going to help them cuddle turkeys and hunt cows and hold chickens and look in the eyes of these animals. We're going to share their stories. We're going to share beautiful vegan food and how delicious and healthy it is. But at the end of the day, what other people do with their journey is none of my business. We're all evolving at our own pace. Some of us wake up right away and ta-da, we're vegan. Other people need to figure it out for a minute. Other people need to maybe butt heads with an illness. We're all on our own journey. And what someone else does with their journey and how someone else evolves is not my business. So spread my message gently and lose my attachment to the outcome. Bless people on their way. The third thing that I came up with to keep my sanity was to protect and guard my inner circle. We're all different. Some of us respond to graphic videos and graphic pictures, some of us don't. Some of us respond to really being aware of the problem because it motivates us. Some people, when we're immersed in the problem, it debilitates us. And so for me, I want to go postal and get off this planet when I see horrific videos and pictures. It doesn't motivate me, it cripples me. So for me personally, I had to stop exposing myself to that. I had to make sure that my inner circle of my friends and family, my inner circle on social media, were protected with people that were gonna uplift me and inspire me and give me hope and make me feel strong and motivate me to wake up every single day doing this work, knowing that there's hope. Because when I get too bogged down in the horror of what's going on, I get stuck and I don't want to move and I just want to get off this planet. So every single one of us has what works and what doesn't work. We have to find what works and what doesn't work for us, and then what works, we have to surround ourselves with it, right? So in my conversations with my friends, with the people that I spend time with on social media, I'm protecting my inner circle with people, conversations, and thoughts that inspire me, uplift me, and strengthen me, and not take me down. The fourth thing is so important. The fourth thing is we have to celebrate the victories. We have to celebrate the victories. Yeah, there's problems. I'm not trying to bury my head in the sand. I'm not trying to pretend that the problem doesn't exist. I know the problem, and I wake up every single morning to face the problem, and I work every single day diligently to make an answer for the problem. But we need to take a minute and celebrate the victories. White Castle has vegan sliders, what? Burger King has vegan burgers, what? Kentucky Fried Chicken had vegan chicken they sold out in 5 hours, what? We have to dance, we have to sing, we have to rejoice, we have to feel that hope, and we have to hold on to it with every fiber of our being. Don't take the hope and the celebration for granted. We have to dance in it. We have to plant our feet into it. We have to eat it up like it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We need to hang on to those celebrations. So I follow a lot of really inspiring social media things that kind of update on the progress. Oh, this celebrity went vegan. This politician is talking vegan. This restaurant just opened. This product just came on the market. And I look at it every single day because every single day I want to dance and celebrate those victories. Because when we feel more of them, we'll create more of them. And the fifth and most important, in my opinion, thing that I came up with is, just like when I was a kid and I would visualize the Gentle Barn and I would draw pictures of the Gentle Barn and I would sing songs of my dream and I would draw animals on the desk and I immersed myself in my dream so that it was real in my mind. I could smell it, taste it, and touch it. I lived here in the Gentle Barn long before I got to work at the Gentle Barn. So just like I created the Gentle Barn, we have to create peace on this planet. So how are we going to do that? Every single day for 5 minutes, my husband Jay and I, we set a timer for 4 or 5 minutes. We sit down, and I don't care if it's to music or to silence, it doesn't really matter. And we go in our minds, and we live in a peaceful world for those 5 minutes. So let's do it together. Everybody close your eyes. Close your eyes and visualize your bare feet walking on fertile soil. It's spongy and soft and cool underneath your toes. To the left of you, you see miles and miles of gardens. You see orange peppers and yellow corn and squash and cucumbers and potatoes and sweet potatoes and cabbage and kale and purple cabbage. Every single solitary color of the rainbow is growing in those gardens that you can see for miles. And it's feeding our bodies, and our bodies are healthy and full of energy and full of vitality. To the right of the path is miles and miles of fruit trees. As far as the eye can see, you can see purple things and pink things and yellow things and orange things growing off the trees. And it's feeding our bodies, and it tastes sweet in our mouth, and it makes our bodies full of energy and vitality and health. And as you're walking down the path, all of a sudden, you feel the ground shaking, and you hear thundering, and you look off to the right, and there's a band of wild horses that gallop past. And everybody stops what they're doing, and we wave to them, because they're our neighbors. And then continue walking on the path, and in front of you is a big, gorgeous, deep forest, with trees so tall they look like they touch the sky. It's a thick, beautiful forest, and in that forest is creatures of every size, shape, and color. Magical, mythical creatures calling out, making songs, chirping, calling, and crying. And you're walking through this forest, and you feel their love, and you feel their energy, and you see them living their lives safe, in peace, and harmony. And you get to a river, and the water is crystal clear and cool and clean. And you follow it with your gaze as it leads to an ocean. And under the ocean is coral of every color imaginable, with every fish of every color and shape imaginable. And above the waters, leaping in the waves, are whales and dolphins, jumping and leaping and thriving. And you look up to the sky, and the sky is blue and bright and clean and clear. And there's a family of Canadian geese flying up, and everyone stops what they're doing and waves to them, because they're our family, they're our community. And people are holding chickens, and hugging cows, and eating from the land. And everyone is happy and healthy. The planet is thriving, and the animals are free. This world can be ours. This peace can be something we feel every single day. The connection between us and every other creature. We have it now, and we can make it better. With what we eat, where we go, how we spend our money, we're all voting with our dollars. We've come a long way in the last 20 years that I've been vegan, and the next 20 years are gonna be amazing. Let's make it amazing together. Let's share the stories, the personalities, the affections, and the intelligence of these animals. Come support the Gentle Barn and enable us to rescue more animals and tell more stories. Let's vote with our dollars and buy food that is gentle, products that sustain our planet, and things that make our body well. Let's be healthy together. Let's love animals together. And let's make this the planet that it was designed to be. Abundant, prosperous, beautiful. It is. But we can make it better. We can be better. We can love better. Let's do it. And come out and hug a cow.